Greetings, dear souls. I do believe that in every conversation, every interaction, there's always two people involved. And every time there's two people involved, there's always 2 points of view. So what I'd like to encourage you, the viewer, today is to always try as much as possible to put yourself in someone else's shoes, no matter how hard it is, to see their perspective. But also, most importantly, I'd like to encourage you to always honor your own perspective that has spawned forth from your own experience. So today I would like to actually respond to a video that was made by a gentleman by the name of Gage. He's very heavily involved in personal development, self-development, and he does a lot of talks, seminars, and writing on prosperity living. So quite recently he had a video blog on YouTube that was speaking about what are the things that are holding you back from being successful. It's very important that you watch this video. I'm going to possibly put a link to it down here so you can watch the video and relate it to what we're going to be talking about today. Gage introduced some very interesting concepts about some of the reasons why we are unable to be successful, and he had mentioned number 1 was worthiness, number 2 was a fear of success, number 3 was a fear of failure, and I think number 4 was lack of the necessary skills. But a very interesting thing happened when I was watching this video by Gage was that for 7 minutes and 45 seconds, I think that was the duration of the video, I did not resonate with what he was putting forth as a hypothesis for the reason why people hold themselves back from being successful. Now, Gage is a very, very, very intelligent individual, has got very good thinking skills, and from my studies of, from looking at his past history, all the obstacles that he's overcome have led to me developing a very strong level of respect for this gentleman. So I am going to be responding to this video not as a debate or an argument, but rather as a different perspective, that arose because I didn't resonate with the video, because I realized that, I've had a different experience. So with that being said, let us jump into this wonderful conversation that will really, really get you thinking about these issues of successful living. Gage had mentioned that one of the reasons why people hold themselves back from being successful is because they have worthiness issues, okay? They're not worthy of having $1 million. They're not worthy of having a successful career. Maybe they're not worthy of having, the beautiful model right next to them. Whatever it is, your lack of worthiness actually keeps you from being successful. And I thought about this and I realized that was not the case, or is not the case for me. Myself, like I'm sure a lot of people watching this video, have significantly deep emotional wounds that arose from their childhood that affected their worthiness. So myself, the level of physical, psychological, and social abuse that I experienced, the high level of social alienation that I experienced when I was growing up, led to me developing very deeply ingrained feelings of I am not worthy. And this played out when I actually came to Canada at the age of 18, and I have told you guys before previously that I really cannot remember the years between 18 and 28 for me, because I was in a fog, in a haze of Heineken, Alizé, Hennessy, cigarettes, BC marijuana. I was intoxicated for over 10 years because I was running away from myself. I did not like myself. I had deeply ingrained worthiness issues. I felt that I was unworthy inside. But the interesting thing is this, ladies and gentlemen, is those feelings of unworthiness that I had inside of me was actually the fuel, was the volcano that was spurring me on to be successful. So I looked at my body and I wasn't happy with the way my body was. Yes, I felt unworthy in my body and I was driven to develop my body into shape. I felt unworthy of having the most beautiful girl next to me. Maybe I want to date Beyonce. No, actually, maybe I want to date Alessandra Ambrosio. But I feel unworthy to be next to her. It's funny, that feeling of unworthiness is what drove me or drives me to position myself in terms of success in the external world to be able to attract these kinds of ladies, you may say. I may feel unworthy to be a billionaire, but that feeling of unworthiness is so sickening in me that it drives me to go towards the visions and dreams that I have for myself. Now, this is a very dangerous game because I know that my unworthiness has driven me to achieve success. Sometime sooner rather than later, I will still have to continue to work on healing the emotional wounds within me that cause the unworthiness issues. So Randy Gage said unworthiness holds you back from being successful. And my experiences in unworthiness, the feeling of unworthiness, when I was young, I was in a middle school and all the kids around me were rich and I couldn't get the rich girl. That feeling of being unworthy drives me to want to be successful so I can be comfortable getting the rich girl. Okay? This is just what I have experienced. Unworthiness was a driver for me. The second thing that Randy Gage spoke about was the fear of failure. He said the fear of failure is what keeps people back from being successful. I think that this is a very complex issue. I think there's something else underlying that's going on behind there, but in my experience, I'd like to give you an example of how the fear of failure actually drives me to be successful. The main words that have been ringing throughout in my life, between my ears, is that you are nothing but a failure. You are nothing but a failure. You're going to be a failure just like your mother. You're going nowhere in life. This is the things that my dad used to tell me. He used to tell me that you're a failure. You're going nowhere in your life. You're just going to be a failure like your mother. And I remember every time he would tell me that in primary school, when I was getting ready to write the final exam to go to high school, those words ringing in my ear was like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong, Pops. And then I went and I did very good. I got very high grades. Same thing in high school. When he told me I was a failure, I was going to amount to nothing. In my final year, all the years I messed around, but when it was time to write the final exam to go to university, I banged it because that's what's going on in my mind. My dad said I'm a failure. I got to prove him wrong. So even when I went out into the world, when I go out to do business and be successful, my biggest fear, far and beyond, ladies and gentlemen, is the fear of failure. But because I have that fear of failure, for me, I look at it like I have to succeed. Like most people need oxygen, me, success is my oxygen. If there was no opportunity for me to succeed and there was no hope and I was bound to be a failure, I would literally buy a 9mm, put it on my head and blow my brains apart. Because I just cannot live with it. I cannot live without being successful. So the fear of failure, I am so scared of failure myself that I will do whatever it takes to be successful. Now I presume Randy Gage must have been talking about people probably don't want to fall down because if they fall down they're going to feel embarrassed about themselves. Other people are going to see that they're embarrassed. But for me, I don't give a fuck if I fall down 10 million times. I don't care if I fail in my businesses, because I know that by trying continuously, I have to be successful. So I want you to look at this from the perspective, or maybe fear of failure can't be the way to actually spur you forward to be successful. The third, um, the third point that Ronnie Gage raised was the fear of success is what's keeping people back. I'm not sure that this is the case, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure this is the case. I came across this word, these three words, fear of success, and I Think and Grow Rich, saying that the fear of success is what keeps people back from being successful. But hold on for a second. Let me bring things back to your world. If you're very honest with yourself, no one is watching, no one is listening, but you're in your room, there's a very good chance that you want to shine. You know, you want to be noticed. You want to be approved. You want to be appreciated. You want people to look up to you. I think this is a feeling that is ingrained in all of us. We want to shine. And in the external world, the shine is we want to be successful. So, it seems counterintuitive to me to have a fear of success. It seems counterintuitive of me to have a fear of success. I think that most people really do want to be successful. I don't think that people are scared of being successful. They may be lazy to do the work to get them there, but I don't think they're scared to be successful. So this is a point that, I'd like to encourage you, the viewer, to take Randy Gage's point and take my point and take your own experience and see what this means for you. Now, the last point that he raised as a reason for why people hold themselves back was that we have undeveloped skills. So the undevelopment of skill is what keeps people back from being successful. I'd like to challenge this point. I'd like to challenge this point because I don't think it is the undevelopment of skills that keep people back from being successful. Yes, I do agree that you need certain skills to climb up the upper levels of success. But behind the lack of development of skills, we have to look and find out, well, why doesn't he have the skills? And you're probably going to run up with two reasons. Number one is the lack of desire to develop the skill base, which literally I'll say is uncurable. If you don't have the desire to improve yourself, then you might as well forget about successful living. I think that the other issue that this raised for me was that, for example, in Africa, I'm building some businesses in Africa, and I actually realized that the number one problem that we have in Africa is a lot of people, when I recruit them into my businesses, I really cannot communicate with them very well because they have a very low level of skill development, a low level of education. And what I did realize was that these people actually want to develop this skill. They have the desire to develop this skill, but they lack the resources. So just yesterday, I enrolled yesterday I talked to 3 of my sales ladies about enrolling them in an educational program to enhance their skill in the marketplace for some products that we are selling. And they came back to me and they were very, very, very excited. Very excited. And I sat back and I was like, wow, they wanted to increase their skills. They had the desire to increase their skills, but they lacked the resources to increase their skills. So rather than saying that the lack of skill is what's holding people back from being successful, I would say that there are situations when the lack of resources, assuming that somebody has got the desire to increase their knowledge base, the lack of resources is what's holding people back from being successful. The reason I can devote a lot of time to my self-development and education, to getting continuous degrees, and I have more degrees that I want to get, is because I have some resources. So what is it that you can do to get more resources which you can use if you have the desire to develop your knowledge base, which would actually increase your level of success?